Good morning. You're watching Millennial Diligence. Today I wanted to talk about leverage and its role in getting you a raise. Leverage is so key when you're working in an organization, especially a small organization, to getting you what you need and what you potentially deserve. You have to establish your importance at that organization. When your leverage really will be at its maximum when the company is facing issues or they're facing personnel changes. So let me give you an example. Someone leaves at your company. If you are closely related to that person in terms of duties and responsibility, that actually gives you quite a bit of leverage for a small window of time. So think of it this way. They're going to have to spread out the duties of more people to fewer people. And for that little amount of time, you're going to have some leverage and some negotiating power. Now, some people might say, well, they're just going to spread us thinner and thinner. That's where you kind of have to not bend. You have to bend a little, but not break. You have to be willing to negotiate and follow through on those negotiations. So an example of this, like I said, is if someone leaves your organization, you're going to have a brief window to look at the resources that your company has, look at what your priorities your manager are, and use that to your advantage. Use that leverage. You got to go to say, okay, I'll take on more responsibility, but you got to grease the wheels here. And some people might say, well, that's just not going to happen. They'll come to the table, especially in a smaller organization. If you're working in a small organization and lots of work is already spread kind of thin, you're going to want to use any bit of an advantage of a bad situation. So you could just relent and say, well, we're just going to have to pick up, the slack. No. Don't pick up shit without first talking to your superior. Don't do it. Because you're just, by doing that, you're just relegating and normalizing the same amount of work being done by fewer people. If they could do that, they wouldn't rehire the person. You know what I mean? So just something to keep in mind. Just having that situational awareness of, how badly do they need you? Are your skills in demand? Can you leave a job for a better one? Can you threaten to leave yourself at that moment to angle for a better job? I mean, these are all things that I think our generation, millennials, are a little bit uncomfortable with, but this needs to become the new normal. You have to be willing to walk if you aren't getting paid what you deserve. Instead of bitching about it on social media or, complaining to your family and friends, no. Advocate for yourself, get in there, look at the situation, and just be real with your manager or your boss. Seriously. And using that leverage, I mean, everyone's got to be out for themselves to a certain degree. And by advocating for yourself and using the leverage when it's key and it's at its highest moment, you're going to be so glad you did. Seriously. And it's going to get easier after the first few times you do it. So what do you think? What do you think is the best way to get a raise in a situation like that? Just, hoping like hell they give you one because it's not looking like it? Or do you you got to squeeze their nips a little bit when they're kind of on their heels when someone leaves or there's a big shakeup in personnel? How do you deal with that? How do you navigate that? And do you have any success stories or horror stories of angling for, a raise by kind of catching the company at their worst moment when you think about it, when someone very valuable leaves? Anyway, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for liking, subscribing, and commenting. I really appreciate it. We'll see you in the next one.